Good evening, it's Wednesday the 28th of May and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Global debt. Pressure developing nations struggle under mounting debt repayments to China, threatening economic stability across the global south. Middle East crisis. Israeli airstrikes devastate a school shelter in Gaza, killing dozens and escalating tensions in the region. Cancer survivor. A cancer survivor in the Mexico City creates a hummingbird sanctuary in her room, bringing hope and healing through nature.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Prashansa Gunawardana.
Good evening once again. China is set to receive record debt repayments this year, mainly from the world's poorest 75 nations, shifting from lender to debt collector. Meanwhile, France faces a prolonged taxi driver strike as unions negotiate with the government.
Australian think tank Lowy Institute has published a report titled Peak Repayment, saying that China is set to collect a record amount of money from the world's poorest countries this year. According to its findings, debt repayment by developing countries totals $35 billion for 2025, $22 billion of which is owed by the world's 75 poorest nations. China is the single largest source of bilateral lending for those countries, accounting for 30% of all their debt service payments combined. This stems from China's lending spree a decade ago. In 2013, President Xi Jinping launched his signature Belt and Road Initiative, providing credit for poorer nations to build bridges, roads and ports. Beijing effectively became a banker for low-income and often politically unstable nations that had limited access to international private capital, particularly in Africa. At their peak in 2016, new Chinese state bank loans totaled over $50 billion, more than the combined lending of all Western creditors in that year. As of 2023, it held more than half of external bilateral debt in the world's poorest and most vulnerable economies. Loans from the early 2010s have begun to mature and their grace periods started expiring, leading to this new peak of debt service, which is higher because of interest. Now, the report's author says that developing countries are grappling with a tidal wave of debt repayments and interest costs to China.
After nearly 3 months of an Israeli blockade, thousands of Palestinians in Rafah urgently sought aid from a foundation supported by the US and Israel. The blockade has severely restricted access to essential supplies, worsening humanitarian conditions in the region.
Thousands of Palestinians rushed into an aid distribution center in Rafah on Tuesday, desperate for food after an almost 3-month-old Israeli blockade. The aid was being distributed by the US and Israel-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, or GHF. Large parts of a fence appeared to be torn down as people jostled their way onto the site. GHF said the number of people at one site was so great on Tuesday that its team had to temporarily pull back and allow people to, quote, take aid safely and dissipate to avoid casualties. The Israeli military said its troops fired warning shots in the area outside the compound and that control was re-established. GHF said it began operations on Monday, but Palestinians appeared to have heeded warnings, including from Hamas, about biometric screening procedures employed at the foundation's aid distribution sites, and stayed away. On Tuesday, many seem to have dropped those concerns.
We are dying of hunger. The children are saying, "Father, I want to eat, so I want to sell even my blood to feed them." We can't find anything to eat. I saw the youth running, so I wanted to come. Some were afraid, but I thought, let it be. I need to feed the children. We have starved, died. Stop the war.
By late Tuesday afternoon, GHF said it had distributed about 8,000 food boxes, equivalent to about 462,000 meals. Israel and the GHF said, without providing evidence, that Hamas had tried to block civilians from reaching the aid distribution center. Hamas denied the accusation. Israel says the Switzerland-based GHF is a US-backed initiative and that its forces will not be involved in the distribution points where food will be handed out. Humanitarian groups briefed on the foundation's plan say anyone accessing aid will have to submit to facial recognition technology. Palestinians worry the technology will be used by Israel to track and potentially target them. The United Nations and other international aid groups have boycotted the foundation. They say it undermines the principle that humanitarian aid should be distributed independently of the parties to a conflict, based on need. UN spokesperson Stéphane Dujarric called the situation heartbreaking.
As the Secretary General noted last week, we and our partners have a detailed, principled, operationally sound plan supported by member states to get aid to desperate population.
King Charles III addressed Canada's parliament, reaffirming the nation's sovereignty and freedom amid Trump's annexation remarks. Quoting the anthem, he emphasized democracy and independence, marking the first monarch-led speech in nearly 50 years, underscoring Canada's strength and unity.
Today, Canada faces another critical moment. Democracy, pluralism, the rule of law, self-determination, and freedom are values which Canadians hold dear, and ones which the government is determined to protect. As the anthem reminds us, the true North is indeed strong and free.
King Charles delivered the speech from the throne in the Senate in Ottawa on Tuesday, emphasizing Canada's enduring strength and independence. Quoting the national anthem, he declared the true North is indeed strong and free, a statement interpreted as a rebuttal to President Trump's annexation suggestion. While the king did not directly mention President Trump, his remarks were seen as a clear affirmation of Canada's sovereignty in the face of external pressures. The speech, written by Prime Minister Mark Carney's government, outlined Canada's legislative agenda and underscored the government's commitment to democratic values and the nation's independence.
Israeli airstrikes hit a Gaza school shelter, killing at least 36 civilians, mostly women and children. While Israel claims the site housed militants, Palestinian officials deny this. Aid distribution has begun after months of blockade amid growing international concern.
On Monday, a school-turned-shelter in Gaza City's Daraj neighborhood was one of the two targets hit by an Israeli airstrike. Hundreds of people, mostly women and children, were sheltering there at the time.
This isn't normal. What kind of missiles are they dropping? What are they doing? I don't understand. All of them were children. The 3 children were burned along with their mother.
According to Gaza's civil defense, the attack, which reportedly occurred while occupants were sleeping, killed at least 36 individuals and injured dozens of others. The Israel Defense Forces said the strikes targeted a Hamas and Islamic Jihad command and control center, believed to be operating within the school premises. They asserted that the facility was being used for planning attacks against Israeli civilians and troops. However, local witnesses and Palestinian officials have denied the presence of militants at the site.
There is no military in it. There is not even a piece of a weapon in it.
In a separate strike, 16 people were killed when the Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza was hit. The attacks have drawn international condemnation, including from German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who cautioned against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu taking excessive military actions. Merz said he no longer understands what Israel is trying to achieve. Ireland's Deputy Prime Minister said legislation for a potential ban on imports from Israeli settlements would be unveiled on Tuesday. Also on Monday, a new aid system in Gaza backed by the U.S. opened its first distribution hubs, following months of being blockaded by Israel. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has taken over the handling of aid, and truckloads of food delivered to its hubs have begun to be distributed to Palestinians on the same day.
Let's go in for a short commercial break. More world news coming right after this. Welcome back. The Trump administration has halted new student and exchange visitor visa appointments abroad and plans to expand social media vetting. The move targets foreign students amid escalating immigration restrictions and has sparked protests at Harvard University in support of international students.
U.S. President Donald Trump's administration has ordered its missions abroad to stop scheduling new appointments for student and exchange visitor visa applicants. That's according to an internal U.S. cable seen by Reuters on Tuesday. which also indicated that the State Department is preparing to expand social media vetting of foreign students. It's the latest step in the Trump administration's efforts to fulfill the president's hardline immigration agenda. That's included ramping up deportations as well as revoking student visas. Last week, the administration moved to revoke Harvard's ability to enroll international students entirely. Those roughly 6,800 students make up about 27% of Harvard's total enrollment.
What do we do?
On Tuesday, several hundred protesters, including Harvard students and professors, demonstrated in support of foreign students at its Cambridge campus.
We stand here today to affirm that international students are our peers, our classmates, and our friends.
In the cable that Reuters saw, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that available visa appointments for student and exchange visitor applicants that were not already scheduled should be pulled down. He also said the department plans to issue updated guidance on social media vetting for such applicants. A senior State Department official confirmed the accuracy of the cable. Trump administration officials have said student visa and green card holders are subject to deportation over their support for Palestinians and criticism of Israel's conduct in the war in Gaza. The administration has called their actions a threat to U.S. foreign policy and accused them of being pro-Hamas, while critics have called the effort an attack on free speech rights under the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution.
France's lower house passed a bill allowing terminally ill adults to voluntarily end their lives with prescribed lethal medication. The legislation reflects growing public support, with the 2023 report showing most French citizens favor legalizing assisted dying.
After the Assembly voted 305 to 199 in favour of an assisted dying bill, the bill's rapporteur has hailed an unforgettable day in Parliament.
In this moment, I'm thinking of all those I met over the last decade who were ill and their loved ones. There are days we know we'll never forget. I will never forget today. Thank you all.
A right to die for any adult living in France long-term at an advanced or final stage of a serious terminal illness causing constant physical or psychological suffering, who is considered to be of sufficiently sound mind to make the choice. It will be a blessed relief for some, like Claude, quadriplegic for the last 20 years.
I've tried to fight it to the end. But now I want to go.
Critics fear, though, that sick, elderly and vulnerable patients may end up taking the assisted dying route due to tacit societal pressure or difficulty in accessing other types of care at a time when healthcare services are under strain. Earlier on Tuesday, the Assembly also adopted a €1.1 billion care package to make up for the large gaps in palliative care provision. The bill promises new palliative care centres across France and provides a legal recourse for those who request and do not receive it.
U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced that COVID-19 vaccines for pregnant women and healthy children have been removed from the CDC's recommended immunization schedule, signaling a shift in vaccination guidelines amid evolving pandemic strategies.
Hi, everybody. I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on Tuesday announced in a video posted on X that the CDC will no longer recommend routine COVID-19 vaccinations for healthy kids and pregnant women.
As of today, the COVID vaccine for healthy children and healthy pregnant women has been removed from the CDC recommended immunization schedule.
The CDC, following its panel of outside experts, had previously recommended updated COVID vaccines for everyone aged 6 months and older. But Kennedy, a longtime vaccine skeptic, said there wasn't enough, quote, clinical data to support the repeat booster strategy in children. Here's FDA Commissioner Marty Makary.
There's no evidence healthy kids need it today, and most countries have stopped recommending it for children.
According to the CDC's website, studies with hundreds of thousands of people around the world show that COVID vaccination before and during pregnancy is safe, effective, and beneficial to both the woman and baby. COVID vaccine makers Moderna and Pfizer did not immediately respond to requests for comment.
Venezuela's ruling Socialist Party secured a dominant 83% majority in Sunday's National Assembly election amid opposition boycotts and claims of fraud. The results continued control over key government institutions despite deep political divisions and protests from opposition leaders. Some of the country's major opposition leaders called for voters to abstain in protest of the official results of the July 2024 presidential election, which the opposition says it won but which authorities say was a Maduro victory. Sunday's legislative results will keep the ruling party in control of the Attorney General's office and the top court, whose members are elected by lawmakers. National Electoral Council Rector Carlos Quintero said that the Great Patriotic Poll Alliance, the alliance of the ruling party, obtained 253 National Assembly deputy seats, while various alliances made up of opposition parties obtained 29 seats. Opposition leaders Maria Corina Machado and Edmundo Gonzalez called on supporters to abstain from Sunday's vote in protest at the official version of the 2024 election results and what they and rights groups say is a brutal crackdown on the opposition, including detentions this week. Time for a short break now. We'll be right back. Welcome back. In Mexico City, 75-year-old Katia Latov runs a hummingbird sanctuary from her bedroom, caring for injured birds and releasing hundreds annually. A cancer survivor, she finds healing through her work, supporting wildlife and inspiring hope in her community. After the death of her husband and her own cancer diagnosis in 2009, Latov was asked by a friend who owned an animal shelter to care for an abandoned baby hummingbird. Latov, who had experience with nursing birds, found solace in her newfound companion. Hummingbird she named Gucci. In 2012, she decided to open her own hummingbird sanctuary. The sanctuary annually releases between 200 and 300 hummingbirds, a number that fluctuates with weather conditions. According to Latov, factors such as extreme heat or heavy rainfalls affect the survival rate of these delicate creatures, as do predators like cats and grackles. Latov expects both baby and adult hummingbirds into a sanctuary, which are brought over by people who find them injured on the street. She examines each bird, provides a diagnosis, and begins treatment. When the birds are strong enough, they are released back into the wild. The sanctuary also includes a special enclosure for injured birds and a nursery for babies, who are hand-fed every 15 minutes by Latov's assistant, Cecilia. Shark sightings are increasingly early this year as climate change causes fish to migrate sooner, attracting predators. Experts track these movements, noting a great white tag near Georgia months ago was recently detected off North Carolina's coast.
A drone is taking picturesque video off the coast of Montauk, New York. But wait, what's that in the water? It's a great white shark. Great white. Same deal in Florida, a close encounter with this terrifying beast. And these fishermen off the coast of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, reeled in a shark before returning it to the water. So why are there already so many shark sightings before summer even starts? Experts say the sharks are feeding on fish that are migrating earlier due to climate change. OSearch keeps track of sharks and their movement. A great white shark they tagged off the Georgia coast 5 months ago was just pinged off the coast of North Carolina. They even gave the beast a name, Contender. Check out this scary video. 6 sharks surround a female diver. One goes after her camera. It happened off the coast of Australia. Thankfully, her diving partner intervened.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Prashansa Gunawardana, and we leave you tonight with visuals of Sydney's Vivid Lights Festival. Also, don't forget to send us your feedback through email at feedback.ad24english@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076805793. Stay tuned for Vinod Varnasuriya with the Nightly Business Report up next. Thank you for watching and have a good night.